What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Fat Boy Fight Club podcast. I'm your host, Andre Roy, coming to you from Tempe, Arizona. And first things first, let me just say happy 2020 to each and every one of you guys and girls that are listening to the podcast today. I thank you guys for tuning in, and I hope 2020 brings you guys a plethora of good experiences and blessings. All right. But with that said, let's talk about some fights. Last night on New Year's Eve on ESPN2, PFL had their yearly finish up championship event. All in all, I thought that it was a really well run event. I thought the fights were fun. There were some stinkers in there, but other than that, man, it was an overall really good card. So I'm just going to run down the results real quick and tell you what I thought about each and every one of those fights. In the first fight of the night on the main card, you had Emiliano Sordi taking on Jordan Johnson. Sordi came out. He had 4 fights, 4 finishes on the whole entire season. Jordan Johnson, I think he was 3-1 for the season. They came out, and you obviously saw that Sordi had the striking advantage. I thought that Jordan would be able to use his wrestling to sort of negate the stand-up that Sordi was bringing, but it ultimately was Sordi's night, and he came through and TKO'd Johnson about 2 minutes into round 1. I hit him with a couple big shots on the feet. Johnson went down, and he pounded him out with some hammer fist. What was interesting to me was that they said that the two guys trained together. I believe they trained together out in San Diego for a little bit, and I thought that was kind of interesting. Maybe they would be able to feel each other out a little bit more. But Sordi just came out there and continued his winning streak of all finishes and capped the night off with winning $1 million, which was a really good fight on his part. Jordan Johnson, I think, just needs to get his striking down a little bit more, and he'll be back though. In the second fight, you had Lance Palmer taking on Alex Gilpin for the featherweight title and the $1 million. This was like the fastest trilogy in MMA history. I believe these guys had fought 2 times this season, so they had fought each other relatively close to this last fight, and it went the way that I thought it would go. It went with Lance Palmer utilizing his wrestling and just beating up Gilpin. And that's what happened. He ended up getting the unanimous decision win, and that made him a back-to-back champ, which was what I thought would happen. Lance Palmer is a very, very good wrestler. Trains at a really good camp up in New Jersey with Frankie Edgar and everybody over there at Nick Atones and Mark Henry's and Ricardo Almeida. And he just went out there and really put the hammer down on Alex Gilpin. It was exactly what a lot of people expected to happen. And didn't disappoint, and he cashed in another $1 million check last night, which can't hurt. In the third fight of the night, you had Rosholt facing Loik Radzhabov, and that was a really fun fight. They were both slinging them, and they were hammering each other. I mean, if you go back and watch that fight, there was some really good striking exchanges. Good ground skills showed by both fighters, but Rosholt, I said it in the previous podcast, I believe that he was the more well-rounded fighter, and he proved that last night, gathering the unanimous decision win, which also made him another back-to-back champion, so he was able to cash in another $1 million, and I think it was a very fun fight. It was the best fight of the night, bar none, and I was really pleased watching that. In the fourth fight of the night, you had Ali Isaev taking on Jared Rosholt. Battle between 2 wrestlers. In the previous podcast, I said that I believe that Isaev had the better wrestling, which he showed. He was able to take down the 3-time All-American with relative ease. Rosholt really didn't show anything too exciting standing up. I know that Ali threw some spinning head kicks, which was really cool to see a big guy throwing those. He was able to really utilize his good freestyle wrestling. He was an Olympian back in 2008, and he really showed his high caliber wrestling skills and was able to put he was able to put him away in the fourth round with some shots from, I believe they were in half guard. He was in Rosholt's half guard, and he just pounded him out with the left hand. And yeah, he cashed in that mill and became the heavyweight champ of the PFL. And the fifth fight of the night, you had Ray Cooper III taking on David Bulldog Mashhad. I actually trained with David a little bit out here in Glendale when I first moved out to the Phoenix area. He's a really good guy, and I thought that his toughness and his striking and his pressure would be able to take Ray Cooper out, but boy was I wrong. Ray Cooper came out there and showed off his very, very good wrestling skills. He also showed off his very crisp boxing, especially his dirty boxing in the clinch and his knee game. In the first round, he actually caught Mashhad with a knee to the liver, which put Mashhad down. You could tell that he was obviously in some pain. And then he finished the round out on top. Second round came out. Both guys were slinging leather. Mashhad actually dazed Ray Cooper III in the second round, and I thought that he was going to be able to capitalize on that and maybe put him out. But Ray Cooper came back and was able to put Mashhad up against the fence and threw some heavy body shots, which he actually caught Mashhad in the liver with one of those bad boys and put him down, and proceeded to pound him out in the second round to have his hand raised and cash in on that $1 million. Ray Cooper III was a finalist last year and actually lost in the finals, so this was like a means of redemption for him, and it was a really good fight. It was a very good performance on his hand, and all of them just looked it just looked like a really good performance by Ray Cooper III. And then in the main event of the night, you had Kayla Harrison taking on Larissa Pacheco. This fight went the way that I thought it was going to go, with Kayla Harrison utilizing her good judo and her good ground game and just beating Larissa. Pacheco didn't really show anything out of the ordinary. Really didn't have Kayla Harrison in any bad places. Harrison just really went in there and displayed her ground game and showed why she's probably the best 155-pound woman out there. That being said, there are obvious holes in her striking game, but she just started fighting probably, I think it was like a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, and she trains at a really good team at ATT down there in Coconut Creek, so she's obviously evolved from the first time that I watched her fight, but, I just hope that they get her some good challengers in the 155-pound division. I would have loved to see Sarah Kaufman fight her, but I don't see too many people beating Kayla Harrison anytime soon. With that being said, I gave you guys my predictions in the previous episode, and I went 3-2 with those predictions. I sort of muffled the ball whenever I was talking about Jordan Johnson and Sorty, and then my prediction was wrong on the Ray Cooper versus Mashhad fight. But all in all, it was a fun night of fights, and it was just really cool to see these guys and girls win $1 million and have some glory, man. It was really cool to see, and I'm really excited for next year's PFL season. You got Rory McDonald, who signed with PFL, so he'll be in the welterweight tournament, and then just announced, I believe today, my boy Johnny Case, who has previously fought in Rizin over there in Japan, has signed with PFL to be in their lightweight tournament for next year. If you guys remember, I believe it was about a year ago, maybe a year and a half, Johnny Case actually went to PFL and fought Rosholt and took him to a draw, which is the first time that Natan has lost in he didn't lose, but it was a draw, where he didn't win in 10 fights. So I'm really excited to see Johnny Case over there putting on a good show and being in that lightweight tournament next year. With the start of January, guys, I mean, it's January 1st. We don't have really any major MMA fights coming up for maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks or so. The next big one's going to be January 18th with Conor McGregor making his return to the cage to take on Cowboy Cerrone, which will be a barn burner, kind of a lackadaisical card underneath it, but I'm super pumped for that fight and super excited to see Cowboy and Conor McGregor finally get to run it. But if you need something to hold you over, we also have Clarissa Shields facing Ivana, not Ivan, Ivana Habazian for the vacant WBC WBO Women's Junior Middleweight title on January 10th on Showtime. That's 10 rounds of women's championship boxing action on Showtime January 10th. So if you need something to hold you over in the combat sports realm, you can hop over there to Showtime and watch some really good boxing. Clarissa Shields has been in talks about fighting Amanda Nunes. If it's boxing, obviously Shields will probably beat the brakes off of Nunes. If it's MMA, you're going to flip that around and you have Amanda Nunes beating the piss out of Clarissa Shields. But other than that, guys, let's see. Anything new on my end? I do have a air fryer buffalo wing recipe on the YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is named just like this podcast. It is the Fat Boy Fight Club. If you search that up, you will see our YouTube channel. You can also follow us on Instagram at Fat Boy Fight Club, on Twitter at Fat Boy Fight Club, and I don't think we have a Snapchat. So other than that, guys, thank you guys so much for tuning in to today's episode. It's just a quick one, just to talk about PFL 10 and the results from that. But thank you guys for tuning in, and until next time, I hope you guys have a wonderful 2020, well, start to 2020, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.